Welcome to the first in a series of videos that looks at how to write Ielts Task 2 essay questions. My name is Baden and I'm an Ielts teacher in Brisbane, Australia, and these are the scores I got recently when I did the actual Ielts test. As you can see, I got a 9 overall and an 8.5 in writing, which I was pretty happy with. You might be wondering, how can I get an 8.5 in writing? Well, that's what this video series is designed to do. It's designed to show you how to do it. There are 5 videos in this series because I've identified different kinds of structures that we need to know and understand before we can actually begin writing them. So I have an example video for each kind of essay that I've identified. This video looks specifically at how to write an opinion essay. And let's get straight into it. As I said, this video is about opinion essays, but opinion essays come in various forms. Let's have a look at the different kinds of opinion essays you might see when you get an Ielts essay question. It may look like this: fact plus argument plus opinion, argument plus opinion, or fact plus opinion. Let's have a look at an example of the first structure. Fact, argument, opinion. Let's read. It is important for children to be able to clearly identify right from wrong. Some people believe that physical punishments are required to develop this understanding. To what extent do you agree with this statement? I'll explain now what I mean by the fact. Every Ielts essay question begins with a sentence. What we need to do is identify what kind of sentence it is. Is it a fact or an argument? Let's look at this one. It is important for children to be able to clearly identify right from wrong. Is that a fact? Is that true? Or is that just someone's opinion? Well, that's true. It's presented as a fact. It is important. What about the next sentence? Some people believe that physical punishments are required to develop this understanding. Is physical punishment required to teach it? Is that a fact? If some people believe it, it means not everyone believes it. So therefore, that's an argument. Now we're required to agree or disagree with that argument. To what extent do you agree with this statement? I call that the opinion part of the question. A second structure that you might find is the argument plus opinion structure. Let's have a look at an example. Some people think that all university education should be free. How much do you agree with this point of view? Notice that statement, some people think. Of course, this is not a fact. This is just an argument of some people. So the next part, the opinion part, says we need to agree or disagree with it. So that's our second example of an opinion essay. Let's have a look at the third. When I did the Ielts test, I got this third structure and this exact question actually. This essay question has the fact plus opinion structure. Many countries are beginning to use renewable energy to provide power. Obviously, that's a fact, that's not an argument. But here they do ask for our opinion. Do you think this is a positive or negative development? Notice with this question it's asking for us to take a position, okay? Is it positive or negative? What do we think? So I know this is an opinion essay. Let's have a look now at an example of how I wrote an opinion essay. Firstly, we need to understand the structure of Ielts essays. I always use the same structure, and I think you should too. It's introduction, body 1, body 2, and conclusion. On test day, when I sit down and get my paper, the first thing I need to do is identify the kind of essay. Now, in this case, I've already identified that it's an opinion essay because it has the following. It has a fact, it has an argument, and it has the requirement of my opinion. Let's have a look at what the fact is. Clearly the fact is here. There are many ways for people to maintain contact with family and friends when living far away from each other. However, this is where the argument comes in. Some people believe that traditional letters are better than online methods of communication. Now we have the opinion part of the question. To what extent do you agree with this point of view? Notice when they say, to what extent do you agree, they don't mean, do I agree that there are many ways for people to maintain contact with family and friends? Okay, of course there are many ways for them to do that. What they're wanting me to agree or disagree with is the idea that traditional letters are better, because that's a point of view. It's not clearly fact. A lot of students have a problem here. They think they need to agree or disagree with the whole thing. You don't need to agree or disagree with facts. Facts are facts. You just need to agree or disagree with the argument. So remember, first identify what is the fact, what is the argument, and do I agree or disagree with the argument, not the fact. It's very important that you come up with an opinion. It's not okay to look at one side and look at the other and then say, in my opinion, I don't know. That's not what they're wanting. Now let's move on to writing our plan. For me, this is usually 4 main points, so 2 for each body paragraph, but it doesn't have to be 2, it can be just 1. That's up to you. I personally usually do 2 for each body paragraph. At this point, I need to get in my head, what is the actual argument here? In this case, the argument is letters are the best way to communicate long distances. So I have to decide, look, do I agree with this or do I not agree with this? I've personally decided that I think, generally speaking, letters aren't the best way, but to be honest, I believe letters have their place. In some cases, I believe they are the best way. So that's why in this particular essay, I'm actually exploring both sides a little bit. Some people call this a partial agreement essay. You can call it whatever you want, but firstly, I'm going to acknowledge the way that I think letters are good, in the sense that in some contexts, they're actually good. But then my opinion will come through in body 2 as being, I'm most in agreement with the idea that letters aren't the best way, partly because of convenience and other factors. The point is, though, I have to come up with ideas. So I'll come up with 2 reasons why I feel that letters do have their place. They are sometimes the best. And then I'll come up with a couple of reasons for why other ways are actually better than letters most of the time. So I would say my position is, mostly I don't think letters are the best way, but in some contexts I do. So keep that in mind. You can look at both sides, but be honest, okay? You can give context for the first body paragraph, but make sure your body 2 paragraph is very clear. So let's try now to think of 2 reasons or 2 situations where letters are the best way to communicate long distances, and 2 reasons or 2 ideas for why letters are not the best way. The fact that in most cases they are not the best way. So take your time, let's think about it for the next few seconds. I recommend pausing the video and then I'll show you what my ideas were. So here are my first 2 points that look at why letters are sometimes the best choice. As you can see, the first reason I think letters are sometimes the best choice are that they can be more meaningful. That's my first point. And the second one is you can keep letters as memories. Now, my 2 ideas that supported my ultimate position that usually other ways are better. One was that online is more convenient, and the other one was that online things, for example, Messenger, WhatsApp, etc., are more interactive. So when I make my plan, I'm actually just writing a few words in dot points, and the details of that idea are in my head, and I'll just expand on them later. So some people like to write a lot of detail in their plans. I do it just like this, just a couple of words to trigger me to think of what my ideas were. Now I have my main point, now I have my opinion, now I have my plan. It's time to begin writing. So, of course, I start with the introduction. Let's have a look now at how to write an introduction for this question. The introduction is by far the most important paragraph in your essay, and there is a simple way to write them. Firstly, you need to paraphrase whatever the question gives you. In this case, have they given us an opinion, a fact, an argument? Let's have a look at what they gave us. We did look at this earlier, but we'll look again briefly. We've got, there are many ways for people to maintain contact with family and friends when living far away from each other. So that was the fact, we agreed on that. Then we had the argument. Some people believe that traditional letters are better than online methods of communication. Letters are better. Right? That was the argument. And then we have the task or the opinion part of the essay. To what extent you would agree with this point of view. In our introduction, we simply have to paraphrase what they said and give our position. So for the fact, they said, there are many ways for people to maintain contact with family and friends when living far away from each other. To paraphrase that, I said, people have a variety of options to choose from when they want to keep in touch with friends and family. That's the fact paraphrased. Now they gave me an argument, so I paraphrase it. The argument they gave me was, some people believe that traditional letters are better than online methods of communication. I've paraphrased that by saying, some would argue that letters are the preferred choice. Mine is shorter, but they're basically saying the same thing. Now, the last part is they want me to give my point of view. They say, to what extent do you agree with this point of view? Now, the truth is, I disagree generally that letters are better, but I think in some situations letters are actually better. So to give my honest opinion, I do need to give that context. So I start by giving the context. Although letters are the ideal option in certain situations, not all, just certain situations, my final position is I'm of the opinion that it is usually better to connect through internet applications. In this introduction, I'm acknowledging the context of my opinion, which is like there are situations where it's not always the case. That's what I'm acknowledging first. And then I'm clearly giving my position in the second part of the introduction. I'm of the opinion it's usually better to connect through internet applications. You'll see this mirrored in my body paragraph structure. You might be wondering what vocabulary you should use for paraphrasing facts, arguments, and opinions. Well, thankfully I've got a video that looks at the vocabulary for doing just that. So I recommend looking at the 5th video in this series. Now let's move on to our first body paragraph. A lot of my students come to the class and they don't know how to actually structure their body paragraphs. Well, there's a very simple structure that you should follow, and that is this. You begin with a topic sentence, then you bring in your first point. You expand on that point. You bring in your second main point, and then you expand on that as well. So basically, it's 5 sentences. The purpose of your topic sentence is to inform the reader of what they're going to read about in your paragraph. Let's have a look at what I tell the reader they will read about in my topic sentence. I said, there are a number of reasons why letters might be preferred to internet communication. What reasons did I give? I didn't give any reasons. I'm going to give the reasons next. As you can see, that topic sentence just prepares your reader for the reasons you're going to give afterwards. Let's have a look at my first reason. First reason is, the fact that the writer cared enough to pay for postage is part of the reason why letters are so impressive. A lot of my students stop there and then move straight into their second main point. But that's not what you should do, because if you keep going to your next main point, you actually won't write 250 words. What you need to do is expand on that idea. Maybe give an example, maybe give an if sentence, maybe explain more in detail what you mean, or maybe have a look at a follow-on effect. These are all ways you can expand on your sentence. My expansion sentence says, indeed, in modern times, letters carry even more meaning than they ever have because sending them is so rare. Now that I've given my first point and expanded, I can now bring in my second main point. My second point says, along with this, letters can be kept as memories, which is particularly appropriate for parents who have children abroad. Now I expand on that. For example, my grandmother still has my father's letters from when he travelled abroad for 2 years in the 1970s. That's a true story, actually. By the way, it is okay to give personal examples if you want to, though I wouldn't give only personal examples always. Just here, I thought it was appropriate. Because I'm contrasting this body paragraph with the previous one, I need to use a word that does that. However is a really good choice to contrast to show that this second body paragraph is actually more important than the first one. As always, I start with a topic sentence. This one says, however, in most cases, modern means of communication are clearly better. Note that I've said in most cases to make my position clear in terms of the context of my position. And I've also said are clearly better, using the comparative better. This also shows my position. So my position is therefore clear throughout my essay, not just at the beginning in the introduction or in the conclusion. Now that I've prepared my reader for what's to come, I bring in my main points. The reality is that convenience is very important for people who like to maintain regular contact. Expand. Applications such as WhatsApp, Line, and Messenger are perfect for such cases because they allow people to call or text anytime from almost anywhere for free. Next point, furthermore, internet communication is instant and two-way. Expand. A letter can only express one person's thoughts and experiences, whereas online communication allows both parties to share their feelings in real time. Now, your conclusion is also very important, much like your introduction. It gives the final impression to the Ielts examiner. Now, there is a formula we can use to write a good one every single time, and let's have a look at that formula now. The formula simply is to begin with in conclusion and then paraphrase the sentence where you gave your opinion in your introduction. Remember in our introduction we said, although, first side of the argument, comma, I am of the opinion, second side of the argument? Well, in this case we say, in conclusion, while the first side of the argument, comma, I believe the second side of the argument. So now I use this structure in my conclusion. I say, in conclusion, while letters do have their place, due to its convenience and instant nature, I believe internet communication is the best option for most people most of the time. I contrasted the first context here, in some situations, or in other words, letters have their place, with me disagreeing for most situations, most people, most of the time. There you go. Now you know how to write an Ielts opinion essay. But there are 3 other kinds of essays that you need to learn as well. So I recommend going to my website and watching those ones, and also the vocabulary video will be useful to help you with things like topic sentences, introducing facts, introducing arguments, etc. Hopefully I'll see you at the website, and have a nice day.